Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at, set theory.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically...
Ooh, set theory.
Yeah, the multiverse.
Okay.
So you sent us this research paper
Yes.
that looks at all the different ways that mathematicians and philosophers are thinking about this concept of the multiverse. And...
not the Marvel multiverse.
No, not the Marvel multiverse.
That could be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. But
yeah,
we can save that for another day.
Another time.
So what we're talking about is like this idea that maybe there isn't just one universe of sets. Maybe there's many.
Mm-hmm.
And...
yeah, instead of one universe of sets, there could be lots and lots of different universes of sets.
Right, and each of those universes would have its own...
Each one could have...
unique properties and its own unique characteristics.
Its own rules about what sets exist.
Okay.
Exactly.
So this kind of brings up all these questions. Like, if that's true, then does that mean there's no, like, one single ultimate truth about sets? Right. And do all of these universes, like... really exist, or are
they just like a mathematical tool we use?
Or are they a real thing?
Yeah.
And how does this impact like the way mathematicians are trying to find new axioms for set theory?
Right.
So
lots of questions.
Buckle up. Things are going to get pretty
conceptual.
Yes. Okay. So the paper talks about two main views on this.
Yeah.
The universe view and the multiverse view.
Right.
Could you explain those a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So the universe view is that there is just one true universe of sets. And our job is to figure out what the axioms are that describe it perfectly.
So they're kind of like searching for the one true map of mathematical reality.
Yeah, they're looking for the one true map.
Okay.
And the multiverse view is that there isn't just one map.
Right.
There's many maps, and they might all be equally good.
Okay.
They each have their own advantages and disadvantages.
So it's like saying there's not one right way to do math. There's actually like... many different ways.
Well, it's like saying that each one of these maps represents a different set theory.
Okay.
And each set theory could be perfectly valid within its own universe.
Right.
But they might disagree with each other.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get a headache.
Okay.
But this is really interesting. So the paper then goes on to look at some of these specific conceptions of the multiverse.
Right.
One of the first ones that jumps out is this idea of the realist multiverse.
Yes.
And this is where things start to get a little mind-blowing for me.
Yeah, this is where things start to get a little trippy.
Yeah.
So this view is championed by a mathematician named Joel Hampkins.
Okay.
And he basically says every time a mathematician comes up with a consistent set theory, they're actually discovering a real existing universe.
Okay. So every time someone's just like at their desk...
Yes.
Writing out some axioms.
They're
not just like...
And they prove that they're consistent.
Inventing something.
Yeah.
They're actually tapping into like a real...
Tapping into a real place.
The place.
Yeah. Like it's like saying every time a fantasy author writes a book, they're actually describing a real world.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a big claim.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But he really means it.
Yeah. Well, so then what happens when all of these different universes like run into each other or like contradict each other?
Well, that's one of the challenges that this view faces because... a lot of these universes would share the same sets.
Okay.
So like the set of natural numbers would be the same in lots of these universes.
So how can they be totally separate if they're kind of built with the same Lego blocks?
Yeah, you can't have two different universes built from the same Legos.
Yeah. What are some of the other objections to this realist multiverse idea?
Well, another one is just this whole idea that consistency guarantees existence.
Okay.
So just because you can write down a set of axioms and prove that they don't contradict each other, does that mean that there really is a universe out there?
Right. So just because I can imagine a world where gravity works in reverse doesn't mean it exists.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a big philosophical question,
Yes,
and it kind of gets at the heart of this debate.
Okay, so one of the main examples that the critics use is this idea of forcing extensions.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit?
So forcing extensions are a way of taking an existing model of set theory and adding new sets to it.
Okay.
And Hampkins argues that these extensions actually represent real universes in the multiverse.
Okay.
But the critics say, wait a minute, you're not really creating anything new. You're just taking what you already have and kind of like adding on to it.
Okay, so it's more like multiverse remodeling than multiverse creation.
Yeah, I like that. Multiverse remodeling.
So that kind of leads us to a different, more pragmatic approach, which is this non-realist view.
Yes.
And this is where we get Seren coming into the picture.
Right.
So what's his take?
Yeah, so Sheila is much less worried about whether these universes really exist.
Right.
He sees the multiverse more as a tool for understanding different set theories.
Yeah.
He compares different set theories to different nationalities.
Okay.
So just like there are different types of humans,
Right.
there are different types of set theories.
Right.
And none of them is inherently more true than the others.
Okay. That's a lot less intimidating.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a more relaxed view.
But if none of them is more true, then how do mathematicians decide which one to work with?
Right. Well, that's a good question.
Hmm.
And Sheila has this idea of semi-axioms,
Okay.
which are statements that might not be true in every single universe,
Uh,
but they hold in typical universes.
Okay.
So it's like finding the common ground between different cultures.
Right.
The principles that work well in most situations.
So it's more about being practical and finding the set theory that works for the problem you're trying to solve.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about finding the right tool for the job.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But even if we step back from this idea of multiple real universes, the multiverse is still kind of a wild concept.
It is.
And the paper goes on to explore a couple of other conceptions that delve even deeper into this rabbit hole.
Yes.
So what's next on our agenda?
Well, next we'll explore the set-generic multiverse,
Okay.
which is a more focused and structured approach
Okay.
that uses a technique called forcing to explore a specific subset of possible universes.
Okay.
And then we'll tackle the vertical multiverse, which is perhaps the most unique and mind-bending conception of all.
Okay. Sounds good.
Oh.
Let's take a break and then we'll come back and tackle those.
Okay. So we're back and ready to dive into some even more complex multiverse conceptions. You mentioned the set-generic multiverse.
Right. Yeah. So this one is a little bit different.
Okay.
It focuses specifically on the universes that you can create using this technique called forcing that we talked about earlier.
Right. You've mentioned forcing a few times, but I'm still not quite sure I get what it actually does. Yeah. So imagine you're playing a game like chess.
All right.
Forcing is like adding a new piece to the game with its own special rules.
Okay.
And now imagine all the different ways that you could change the game by adding different pieces with different rules.
Okay.
That's kind of what the set-generic multiverse is like. It's exploring all the different universes you can create by adding new sets and new axioms to set theory.
So it's like we're exploring all the variations of a game we can create by changing the rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And within this set-generic multiverse, there are two main players.
Okay.
Hugh Wooden and John Steele.
Okay.
And they have some interesting and different takes on what this all means.
Okay. What's Wooden's perspective?
So Wooden actually uses this concept of the set-generic multiverse to argue against the idea of a multiverse.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it sounds counterintuitive, right?
Yeah. If it's called the set-generic multiverse, how can he be against the multiverse?
So his argument is that the set of truths that hold in every universe of the set-generic multiverse can actually be captured by a single structure. It's like saying that all the different variations of chess that you can create by adding new pieces ultimately still stem from the same core principles of the game.
So even though there seem to be all these different universes, they're all still connected to one underlying reality.
Exactly. And for Wooden, that undermines the whole point of a multiverse.
Okay.
Because the multiverse is supposed to be about irreducible diversity.
Okay. It's like he's saying there's this multiverse map, but the territory it's depicting isn't actually as complex as it seems.
Right.
Okay. Interesting. So what about Steele? What's his take?
Steele, on the other hand, embraces the set-generic multiverse.
Okay.
He actually develops a whole formal theory around it.
Okay.
And he even proposes that it could be a potential foundation for all of mathematics.
Wow.
Yeah. He's a big believer in the power of this multiverse.
Okay. And what's his main idea?
So Steele's big idea is that this set-generic multiverse might have a core,
Okay.
a specific universe that contains the essential information about the whole multiverse.
So it's like saying that amidst all the variations of chess, there's one master version that captures the essence of all of them.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay. And does he think we can find this core?
He does.
Yeah.
He even proposes an axiom called axiom H that implies the existence of this core.
Okay. So if this axiom H is true,
Then there is a core.
then there's a core universe.
Yeah.
Okay. And this core universe would kind of hold the key to understanding the whole set-generic multiverse.
Exactly.
Okay, I could see how that would be really powerful. But I do have one question.
Sure.
If we're only looking at universes created through forcing, doesn't that leave out a lot of other possible universes?
That's a good point. And both Wooden and Steele acknowledge this limitation.
Okay.
Their reasons for focusing on the set-generic multiverse are mainly pragmatic.
Okay.
It's the type of multiverse that lends itself to the kind of deep mathematical analysis that they're interested in.
Right. So it's like we're exploring a specific neighborhood of the multiverse,
Yeah.
but we're not sure what lies beyond those borders. Okay. And even within this neighborhood, there's still this debate about whether Steele's core represents like the one true universe or just one particularly significant one.
Right. It's a fascinating debate.
It is. It makes me think that maybe this idea of choosing between the universe view and the multiverse view isn't as simple as we first thought.
Yeah, I think it's more nuanced than that.
Maybe it's about finding the right balance between unity and diversity in our understanding of math.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, well, we've talked about the realist multiverse and the non-realist multiverse and the set-generic multiverse, but we haven't even touched on the vertical multiverse yet.
We haven't. And that one is really interesting.
You said it adds like a whole new dimension to the multiverse discussion.
It does, literally.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So this view was inspired by an early set theorist named Ernst Zermelo.
Okay.
And he imagined a tower of universes built one on top of the other.
Okay, so instead of different universes spread out horizontally, it's like a vertical hierarchy.
Exactly, like floors in a skyscraper.
Wow. Okay, I'm starting to feel a little dizzy.
Each floor represents a different level of complexity in set theory.
Okay.
As you go higher, you encounter sets that are more vast and mind-boggling than anything on the floors below.
So this vertical multiverse is like a never-ending ascent into more and more complex mathematical realms.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, but how do we even know this tower can keep going up infinitely?
Well, that's where the concept of height potentialism comes in.
Height potentialism.
It's the idea that there's always room to grow upwards,
Okay.
adding new levels of sets and expanding the universe infinitely in that direction.
So there's no theoretical limit to how tall this mathematical skyscraper can get.
No limit.
Okay, but here's what I don't get. If the tower keeps growing upwards, does that mean each level also keeps expanding outwards?
That's a great question. And the answer is no.
No.
Each level has a fixed structure. There's no sideways expansion at any given level.
Okay.
This is what we call with actualism.
With actualism.
Yeah. So each floor of the skyscraper has a set layout, but you can keep adding more floors on top.
So it's like this infinite potential in one direction,
Yeah.
but a very well-defined structure in the other.
Exactly. It's a fascinating combination.
It is. Okay. So you mentioned that there's a connection between this vertical multiverse and this search for new axioms in set theory. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So that's where the hyperuniverse program comes in.
Hyperuniverse program.
This program uses the concept of maximality to explore the limits of what a universe of sets can contain.
Okay. Remind me again, what is maximality in this context?
So maximality is a measure of how complete or full a universe is.
Okay.
For example, a universe that contains every possible set would be considered maximal in a certain sense.
So it's like finding the blueprint for the most expansive mathematical universe possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the hope is that by understanding what it means for a universe to be maximal, we might discover new axioms, new fundamental rules that must hold true in any universe.
So this hyperuniverse program is like this quest to find the most powerful and universal laws of mathematics.
That's a good way to put it.
And the vertical multiverse provides a framework for understanding how these laws might operate at different levels of complexity.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. But you did mention some really interesting mathematical details about the vertical multiverse. One that caught my attention was this idea of strongly inaccessible cardinals.
Ah, yes! Strongly inaccessible cardinals. They're fascinating.
Okay.
So remember how we talked about different sizes of infinity?
Uh-huh.
Well, cardinals are used to measure those sizes.
Okay.
And strongly inaccessible cardinals are so large and self-contained that they essentially act like mini-universes themselves.
Okay, so each level of the vertical multiverse could be represented by one of these incredibly large cardinals.
Exactly. It's like each floor of the skyscraper is built on a foundation so vast that it could contain an entire universe.
Oh, that's incredible. But how do we even know these strongly inaccessible cardinals actually exist? I mean, we're talking about something that's beyond even the concept of infinity, as most people understand it.
That's a great question. And the truth is, we can't actually prove their existence within the standard axioms of set theory.
Okay.
They're what we call large cardinal axioms.
Okay.
Additional assumptions that mathematicians sometimes add to set theory to explore their consequences.
So it's like we're adding new rules to the game to see what kinds of interesting structures we can build.
Exactly.
Okay, and what do we learn from studying these large cardinals?
Well, it turns out that they have some really profound implications for set theory,
Yeah.
and they even have connections to other areas of math like logic and topology.
Wow.
It's amazing how these really abstract concepts can ripple through the entire mathematical landscape.
Speaking of abstract concepts that ripple outwards,
Yeah.
you also mentioned something called V-logic, which I understand is used to express the horizontal maximality of the vertical multiverse.
Right, V-logic is a fascinating tool.
Can you unpack that a bit for me?
Sure. So remember how we said that the vertical multiverse combines this upward growth with a fixed structure at each level? Well, V-logic is a special kind of language that lets us talk about the potential for thickenings,
Thickening.
adding new sets at a given level
Right.
without contradicting that fixed structure.
But wait, I thought with actualism meant there's no sideways expansion at any level.
Yeah.
How can we talk about thickenings without breaking that rule?
That's a great question. And that's where the cleverness of V-logic comes in.
Okay.
Instead of saying that these thickenings actually exist as separate universes, we use V-logic to describe their properties as potential possibilities within our current universe.
So it's like we're describing the blueprints for these extensions, but we're not actually building them.
Exactly.
Okay, so V-logic gives us a way to explore this concept of horizontal maximality, how full a universe can be at a given level without actually breaking the rules of the vertical multiverse.
Precisely.
Okay, and this is a crucial tool for the hyperuniverse program. Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. The vertical multiverse V-logic, the hyperuniverse program, they all contribute to this richer understanding of the set-theoretic landscape.
They do. And it's important to remember that this is still a very active area of research.
Right.
There's still a lot we don't know about these different multiverse conceptions.
Okay. Well, that's a good reminder that we're really just at the beginning of this exploration.
They are.
But it's exciting to think about all the possibilities that lie ahead.
It is. It's a very exciting time to be working in set theory.
It sounds like it. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored different conceptions of the multiverse, from the realist view to the non-realist view to the set-generic multiverse to the vertical multiverse. We've climbed the tower of the vertical multiverse, contemplated the mind-boggling scale of strongly inaccessible cardinals, and glimpsed the potential of the hyperuniverse program to uncover new axioms that could reshape our understanding of mathematics.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But before we get too carried away with all these different multiverse conceptions, I have to ask, what does this all mean for someone who's not a mathematician? Why should they care about these ideas?
Well, on a philosophical level, I think it's just mind-blowing to consider that the math we use to describe the universe might actually be describing multiple universes.
Right.
It really challenges our assumptions about what's true and what's real.
Yeah. It's like the ultimate thought experiment. What happens when our understanding of reality expands beyond what we can directly observe?
Exactly. And the search for new axioms in set theory isn't just an abstract pursuit.
Right.
It could have implications for other areas of math and science.
Okay.
Remember, set theory is often seen as the foundation of math. It provides the basic language and rules for constructing other mathematical concepts.
So if we change the foundation, it could affect the whole structure.
Potentially, yes. New axioms could lead to new theorems, new branches of math, and even new ways of understanding the universe.
Okay, now that's something I can get excited about. It's not just about exploring different multiverses. It's about potentially expanding the boundaries of human knowledge.
Exactly. Who knows, maybe these new axioms will help us unlock the secrets of dark matter or help us understand the origins of the universe.
It's amazing to think that something as abstract as set theory could have such far-reaching implications.
It really is. It speaks to the power of mathematics to illuminate the hidden connections in our world and perhaps even beyond our world.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the set-theoretic multiverse.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Is there a final thought-provoking question you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Sure. If we accept the possibility of different universes of sets, each with its own set of rules, does that change how we view mathematical truth? Is it something absolute and eternal, or something relative to the universe we're considering?
It's a great question. It really highlights how these multiverse conceptions challenge us to rethink our fundamental assumptions about math and its relationship to reality.
They do. And I think that's a good place to leave our listeners with more questions than answers.
Indeed. So thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of set theory and the multiverse. It's been a wild ride. We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas. You might just stumble upon a new universe yourself. Okay, so we've talked about all these different multiverse conceptions, but I'm wondering, what does this all mean for someone who isn't a mathematician? Like, why should anyone care about these ideas?
Well, I think there are a few reasons. First of all, it's just really mind-blowing to think about the idea that there might be multiple universes of sets out there.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes you question everything you thought you knew about math.
Exactly. And it also challenges our assumptions about what's true and real.
Right, because if there are multiple mathematical realities, does that mean there's no single objective truth?
That's a big question. And I don't think there's an easy answer,
Yeah.
but it's definitely something worth thinking about.
Yeah. And beyond the philosophical implications, are there any practical implications of these multiverse conceptions?
Well, I think the search for new axioms in set theory could potentially have implications for other areas of math and science.
Okay. How so?
Well, remember, set theory is often seen as the foundation of math.
Uh-huh.
So if we change the foundation, it could affect the whole structure.
Right, so new axioms could lead to new theorems, new branches of math, even new ways of understanding the universe.
Exactly.
Okay, now that's something I can get excited about. It's not just about exploring different universes, it's about potentially expanding the boundaries of human knowledge itself.
Precisely.
That's really cool. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the set-theoretic multiverse,
Yeah.
is there one final thought-provoking question that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Sure. If we accept the possibility of different universes of sets, each with its own set of rules, does that change how we view mathematical truth? Is it something absolute and eternal, or is it something relative to the universe we're considering?
Wow, that's a really deep question. And I think it highlights just how much these multiverse conceptions challenge our fundamental assumptions about math.
They do.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing because it forces us to keep questioning and keep exploring.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the world of set theory and the multiverse.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been fascinating. And we encourage all of you listening to keep exploring these ideas on your own. You might just discover a new universe